How do you use 8 famous mountains to teach English and spiritual truths? Our Youth for Christ International team did not go to Armenia for sightseeing, although it is an amazing, beautiful country with beautiful people. We went to lead an English camp. So let me share with you how also you can use 8 famous mountains from around the world to teach English, like we did. And if you stay to the end, I will tell you how you can get this curriculum for free as well. Our team of 6 older Americans included Judy and I, Randy and Vicki Morris, and John and Sonnet Barr. We came to Armenia to partner with our YFC Armenia team in June of 2024 to lead a 5-day English camp. Our wonderful YFC Armenia staff and volunteers had already prepared for the camp, and they had everything organized and ready. Teenage girls from around the country who are already part of Youth for Christ Superwoman clubs were invited to apply and to come to this camp. These Superwoman clubs are actual ministries in local churches. They are weekly programs where vulnerable teen girls ages 14 to 17 discover their worth in God's eyes from Bible studies and other practical help and skills that are taught during the clubs, like cooking and sewing, hospitality, and other areas as well. Arev Sarukhanyan, our Youth for Christ Armenia National Director, welcomed our team. She brought us into the Youth for Christ office there in Yerevan and shared all about the different ministry sites that they have around the country. And she shared with us also of how they had chosen as a staff the best way that they could partner with us, our international team, for this first year together and doing an English camp. So they had invited 41 teen girls from 13 different Superwoman clubs from around the country. This is the very first time that we had led an all-girls camp, but it turned out to be a great option, probably the best option for our budget and the facility that we were going to rent as well. It proved to be a wonderful choice. Judy and I, in fact, when we were with our girls in our particular English class, we asked them at the end of the week how they had felt about being at an all-girls camp. They said, of course, they missed having boys around, but they stated honestly, if there would have been boys there, we would have had 2 goals. As it was, we were focused on just one goal. That was, of course, personal growth and to learn a little bit of English too along the way. So we gathered our whole group at a hotel. You've been seeing videos here of our group and all the activities that we had and the fun and the enjoyment, the relationships were built. And we met in the central mountains of Armenia. Such a special week. We taught the same English curriculum that we had taught in Ukraine about these 8 famous mountains of the world. All of them have spiritual themes. You see, I wrote this curriculum several years ago, and students had really enjoyed it, so we decided to do it here in Armenia as well. But it was especially cool for us to start teaching with the first mountain, Mount Ararat, in the actual country where, well, Ararat is the national symbol of Armenia. And there we taught not only about Noah and the Ark, but also the spiritual theme from Ararat, that God always keeps His promises. We divided the girls into 3 groups, and we co-taught with our spouses. On our first day, Judy and I looked in the eyes of 14 girls and wondered how would we ever tell them all apart. They looked incredibly similar. 14 beautiful girls with long dark hair, dark brown eyes, and gorgeous olive skin. How would we even learn to pronounce their names that had letters that our tongues could not even pronounce? John and Sonnet was our colleagues from YFC Academics, and they gave us all a great idea to try. So the next day we did it in our class. We put all of our girls' name tags, their lanyards, in a bowl. We mixed them all up, and we had a fun game of drawing these lanyards out, trying to put them on the necks of the correct girls. Judy did a lot better than I did. I made several mistakes, and there was a lot of laughter. We had a great time teaching English that week and developing relationships. At the beginning of the week, the girls were quiet. They were tentative. However, by the end of the week, they were confidently practicing their English with us, and they were sharing their hearts too. We all became very close to one another, and it was hard to say goodbye on the last day. We went over each of these 8 famous mountains over the 5 days of our English camp there in Armenia. So let me just share with you each of these mountains so that you have an understanding of what we did. The first mountain was Mount Ararat, as I've already shared about, and that theme was God is trustworthy and keeps his promises. The second mountain we covered was Mount Olympus. And we talked about the idea that false gods of this world are against the true God and should not be worshipped. The third mountain we covered is that Mount Carmel. On it, the true God defeats all of the false gods, covering from that story from the Old Testament. The fourth mountain is Mount Hermon. On this mountain, the Transfiguration probably took place and shows that Jesus is God. The fifth mountain, Mount Golgotha, was that idea that Jesus defeats death on the cross. The sixth mountain, the Mount of Olives. This is where Jesus left the earth, but will return back to the earth someday at that same location. The seventh mountain is Mount Vesuvius. Here we talked about the idea that the world's pleasures will be burned up, so we need to store our treasures in heaven. And the last mountain we covered, number 8, was Mount Everest. How could we not cover Mount Everest? On this mountain we talked about the idea that we can overcome challenges with God's help. So, isn't that cool? How each of these mountains can bring out a spiritual truth. It was also wonderful to be able to share stories about these mountains during the English classes to help our students practice their English conversational skills and learn a little bit. On Thursday of the camp, our Youth for Christ Armenia team gave the girls an opportunity to make a clear commitment to give their lives to Jesus. Some of the girls were already believers, but 19 additional girls came forward to publicly make a spiritual decision to follow Jesus. These girls are going to went home to a weekly Youth for Christ Armenia ministry connected with a local church in which they were going to continue to be discipled, and I'm sure they are. We sense God working through all of us during that week. But as I said at the beginning of this video, you too can use this same English curriculum if you're interested. There's no copyright. Please feel free to copy and distribute. Just go to our Youth for Christ training webpage and go to the Shared Resources section. In this section, you'll find several resources that are available for free, but to help you find it, I'll put a link in this video description, and it'll make it easier. And you can just click the link, go to the page, and download a leader's guide as well as a student guide for this curriculum that we have entitled Move the Mountains. The country of Armenia has gone through a lot of trials and continues to go through trials today. We understand this personally because of our own connection with Ukraine and the trials they're going through, but now we also have a special love for Armenia, these special superwomen that we had a chance to meet and serve. Please remember to pray for peace in Armenia and these special ladies, and continue to pray for peace in Ukraine, around the world, and for peace in each of our hearts that can only be found through Jesus Christ. He is our only hope.